Hi guys, I'm Lexi.
And I'm Danny.
This is the Girl Preach podcast. We're laughing because we decided to change the intro, but I went back to old habits.
That's fine.
So that's how today is going.
An intro is an intro, and it is fine.
It is fine. We are so glad to be with you guys again for this
Yes.
podcast and just to get to hang out and talk. Um, Today's episode actually might be pretty short. I had this bright idea that we were going to talk about modesty culture and just this experience that I had, and I was like, yeah, that would be such a good topic. And then we got into it, and we're like, we're gonna be done with this in like 10 minutes.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
so we'll see
Mini
how it
episode.
goes.
Mini episode.
Yes, sometimes you just need to throw those in there. Although,
So, what brought this up?
yeah. So I was at a camp, and it was just we were having this meeting together, and the they kind of go over different roles with the leaders, and one of the rules, which is not uncommon by any means, but one of the rules is if you are a girl and you bring a bikini, you have to wear a t-shirt, like pretty standard camp rules.
Right.
And
Right.
the person that was explaining all of these rules, they were like, well, people are always like, well, why do boys get to not have to wear a shirt? And he was like, well, boys and girls are built different. And I was just thinking about that, which, yes, he's 1,000% right. Girls
Right.
are built different than
Right.
boys.
Right.
But in my head, I was kind of like thinking about that. And I was like, girls have to cover up because exposing too much will make a guy lust after them and it becomes a problem. But then I was like, you know what though? Girls lust just as hard
Yeah.
towards guys.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when we were younger, maybe not you and I when we were younger, but like just being
Right.
younger, going to a pool or having a magazine or watching a movie, and like a guy takes off his shirt and he has like abs and stuff, and you're
Yes.
like,
Yes.
ooh, yeah, look at that guy.
Yes.
Like, girls lust over guys too. Like, it's a gateway for girls as well. So I was
Right.
just kind of,
Right.
in my head, I was wondering, like, in this modesty culture, why is the conversation always targeted to women needing to cover up? Like, why is there that double standard?
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, we grew up in purity culture. Like, our era of growing up was, I feel like all of that was like aimed at us women. Like, well, you need to cover up, you need to be modest, you need to stay pure. We're having to go to like these purity tea parties and like these purity talks on Wednesday nights, and it's like, but the boys are gonna go outside and have a quick chat and then play a round of basketball. Like, it just wasn't. I didn't feel like it was equal, like equally placed, but it should have been. Because I mean, I don't know.
Well, I feel like in those conversations, the responsibility was always put on girls. It's your responsibility to make sure that you're covered up. I remember being in a class one time when we were talking about modesty, and they were like, even your bra strap, if your bra strap is sticking out, it's going to cause a boy to think about your boobs, and then they're going to,
Yeah,
like, all of this,
stumble.
like, it was a
Stumble.
rabbit hole,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
that whole
But where's
idea
the
of it's your
accountability for a
responsibility.
man?
Yeah. And thinking back to our episode last week, was it last week? We talked about like submission and partnership and men being the leaders, right? We expect men to be the leaders, but yet they can't even be the leaders in their own lust.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
I kind of have had like this conversation with Chris, like, and it's funny. Like, it's not in this situation, but it's like, oh, but they're a man. You have to cover yourself up because these boys can't control themselves, or you can't show a bra strap because they're going to have this lustful thought, or you can't show your kneecaps because of this, or like X, Y, and Z. But then, like, I'm like, isn't that embarrassing for you, like, as a guy? Like, they're diminishing your will. Like, like, oh, he's a man, he can't help it. Like, are you that weak? You know what I mean? Like, but no, you're not. I know that you're not. Like, I know that, and not like adding that my husband, but him and I have had that conversation because I'm like, it almost makes them seem like they're children. Like they have no impulse control or no discipline, or it completely removes like the accountability from them the way that we grew up, I feel like. And I'm like, to me, like, that's not at all like in scripture. Men are called to be the complete opposite of how we're treating them, but it's like we're coddling them. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying like that gives us a free pass to like walk around like in our, provocative outfits. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. But like to go to the extreme, like my issue is my kids go to our church's um kids camp. And I'm like, my 5-year old shouldn't have, I mean, she goes as a pre camper, but I'm like, she shouldn't have to put on a t shirt to cover up her bathing suit. Like, at what point is it the church is trying to protect men, but it's sexualizing girls at such a young age? I don't know.
Yeah, I think our culture is highly sexualized anyways, especially
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to women, like in the TV series or ads or just
Yeah.
models or however you want to look at it. Like we're hyper sexualized here
Mm-hmm.
anyways, and so that doesn't help the conversation. But like our
Right.
world set us up to that. We didn't set that up, you know.
Right.
Um but I cuz I was kind of having this conversation with somebody today cuz I was asking them kind of what their thoughts are on modesty culture. And we talked about like I work at the school here, and there was this second grader. She's just a second grader. She had a shirt on where one side had a sleeve, but the other side was a spaghetti strap. And I was like, in second grade, that's fine. Like, nobody's going to call you
Yeah.
out for that. But then, like, as you get older and you start developing, they're going to be like, oh, sorry, that spaghetti strap's not okay because now you're developed. But then we talked about how if we don't start setting those standards now when they're young, it's not going to be a big deal when they're developed because why should it be for them? They're like, I've always dressed this way. Why do I need to cover up now? Kind of a
Right.
mindset.
Right.
And I'm definitely not for girls just like going out there and flaunting it. Like, I've definitely seen in our culture some outfits that like make it's not that I don't want people to have free will, but like there has to be some form of modesty, especially like
Right.
in the workplace or in
There has to
schools
be
or something. And
professionalism.
a
Yeah.
lot
There
of
has to be
people are,
professionalism. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people are trying to get around that with what they're trying to wear. And
Mm-hmm.
then they get mad when they get called out on it. But like, you do have to have some sort of boundaries
Standard.
in these settings,
Yeah.
you know?
Standard.
And
Yeah.
so, like, I'm not saying like girls should just go out there and just show everything. That is definitely not what this conversation is about. I'm
Right.
definitely about
Right.
modesty too.
Right.
I think that it's just messed up that, like girls can't show off their shoulders or, like you said, knees or their stomachs, but like guys can go out there and just take off their shirts and it's the same. Like, sure, they don't have breast, but girls are still lusting over them.
Right.
And from my experience, guys are going to be tempted whether or not you have a lot of clothes on or not. Like, they
Yes.
still get tempted. There's still a lot of sexual assault that happens to women who do dress modestly in
Mhm.
churches and in different organizations. We
Right.
can't just blame women because you weren't wearing enough clothes.
I feel like it's protect the little boy, protect the man, but like who is looking out for the little girls, like in that aspect. Like if we're going to try and prevent young men from stumbling, then like why aren't we going the extra mile to also try to prevent like the young women from stumbling? Like I'm just all about like the equal and fair, but I'm also like about not sexualizing children too young, like if you think my 8-year-old can't be in a one piece and she needs to wear a t-shirt down to her knees, then that's a problem, but not for her. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, that's just, I have an issue with that. And like, I make them wear one pieces, but I don't make them cover up this young because I'm like, they're little. I don't know. I might be a rule breaker, but that's something that Chris and I have just said we're not going to overly sexualize our children, especially our girls at such a young age.
Yeah. And they shouldn't. They should get to be kids,
Mm-hmm.
and live their
Mm-hmm.
lives.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know obviously how it is in other countries, but whenever um they portray movies or you read books that were written like hundreds of years ago, it was considered scandalous for a guy to take off his shirt in front of a girl.
Yes. Yes.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhere along the line, our culture decided that it's perfectly fine for men to just do whatever they want and women are going to bear the brunt of that.
Yeah.
And I think about it because whenever I was bringing this subject up to you specifically, I was just wondering, like, are there any examples in the Bible of this? And um, I was doing my research. I used the help of AI a little bit too. Um, but it did remind me, like in the story of Potiphar's wife, it was the girl lusting after Joseph. Was it Joseph?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I already forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like he got sent to prison for it because she turned it around on him. And we can talk about like the Egyptian culture and how things were different for them, but based off the culture that we live in today, I would argue it's probably pretty similar. Like
Mm-hmm.
women are like going after men. I've also seen a shift of like
They're very forward.
older women going after younger men now too. Like
Yes.
it's just wild to me that for so long, like my entire life, I've been told guys struggle with pornography, guys struggle with lust, guys struggle keeping their one and only girlfriend because guys were
Yeah.
made to just go out and have whoever they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And just completely ignoring the fact that, women struggle with pornography too. Women struggle with lust too. Women struggle staying in one relationship too. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think the like reason that I wanted to have this conversation was not to tell people to go out, wear whatever you want, but to just kind
Right.
of like offer the motivation or like nudge the conversation for people to
Yeah.
start thinking, why have we accepted this for so long? Why has this been okay for so long?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, like, I can't answer why, other than like this world is just like Satan's playground. Like this is, I mean, it goes back to that. And it goes back to like there's nothing new under the sun either. Like what was it the church in Ephesus? The Maeonites. It wasn't for the church in Ephesus, but like their deity that they worshipped in that city. The women would like lay, they were like basically temple prostitutes, and they would like lay and try to seduce men. Like, I mean, this is nothing new that we struggle with, but I think now it's like more televised than it ever has been, and we're able to see more of the debauchery, if you want to call it that, or the immorality of this world. It's at our fingertips, and we use it as entertainment. I'm so guilty of that. Like some of the shows I watch are just hanky sometimes. I'm like, I don't even know if that's a word, but like, like there's some things on the shows that like make me blush. Like, and I'm like, if I can't be comfortable enough to watch this with my husband, then I don't need to be watching it either. Like I've had that conviction, and I heard it on a podcast a while back, and he was talking about how we use the things that break God's heart as entertainment, and we're not convicted by it anymore. And I think it goes back to that sexualization of other people, and we're watching it as entertainment. And it's, I don't know. I mean, it could be something as innocent as Friends is one of my absolute favorite TV shows. It's my comfort show. When I'm having a hard time, I go and I put on Friends. And I can't tell you how many times that show talks about porn. And I did Google it the other day, and throughout the entire season, or the entire like run of the show, between all of them, I think there was like 87 sexual partners between the six friends. And I was just like, man, like you don't really even notice it because you're just so accustomed to it, I guess. I don't know. Like you're just so desensitized. That's the word I'm looking for. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the problem is though it's not just our world, it's in the churches too. Like it's our
Yeah.
churches who
Mm-hmm.
teach us these things.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem.
Yeah. As I was like reading, so I have like a couple different passages that I found, and one of them is First Timothy, and it's just therefore I want every man everywhere to pray, lifting up holy hands without anger or disputing. I also want the women to dress modestly with decency and propriety, adorning themselves not with elaborate hairstyles or gold or pearls or expensive clothes, but good deeds appropriate for women who profess to worship God. And I was like reading that and I'm like, okay, modesty, like dress modestly, decency and propriety, adorning themselves. And it talks about like their hairstyles and their jewelry and things. But then it goes down and it's like, but with good deeds appropriate for women. And it's like, I could dress like all fancy and provocatively and still have good deeds. So, like, to me, that's not. So then I kind of dove deeper. And, you know, when it says to have decency and propriety, that's a behavior. That's like a heart posture. And I think most things go back to the posture of your heart. Are you dressing like this to bring attention to yourself and to glorify you and your body or, you know, your whatever it is? Or are you putting on some clothes and thinking about how you're going to serve the kingdom? You know, on Sunday mornings when I have nursery, I'm not thinking about how cute I look. I'm thinking about how functional it is because I'm going to be on the floor playing with kids, you know? And so that's just, I don't know, like that just kind of like, as I was reading that, I was like, it's a heart posture. And in Sunday school, there was a couple in there that has been coming to our church pretty frequently, and she was talking about how when people look at her, she doesn't want them to see, you know, that her nails are done or that she dresses this way or she's rich or she has this makeup done or like whatever. She's like, I just want people to see Christ. I want to hide behind the cross and them to see the cross. You know, it doesn't matter what I wear or the way that I look or how people perceive me as long as they're perceiving Christ. And I thought about that today as I was reading, and I was like, man.
Yeah, I think that's important because when you are dressing more provocatively, people will
Mm-hmm.
sit there and say they're doing it for themselves, but they want to be seen. They want to be noticed.
Mm-hmm.
They're it's not for themselves. And I know that that's a fancy, not fancy way to say that. Sorry. I know that that's kind of where our culture is at. Like I do this for me. Kind of an attitude and mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but honestly, I think you're right. Like if you're dressing that way, it's because that's how you want to be perceived. You want to attract people.
Yeah.
And whenever we're following Christ, you know, our minds are supposed to be set on him. And like you said,
Mm-hmm.
be functional for the role that he's has you in. And that
Yeah.
includes stress. And I think it was important for Paul to call out modesty because of the profession of a lot of the women coming into the church
Mm-hmm.
and the way that they were living.
Right.
And so, like, I agree. I think that Paul would still call out modesty as it is today because women
Mm-hmm.
are pretty much out there flaunting everything. Um, but I think that when our eyes are set on God and what He has called us to do, we don't care so much about how we look or what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We just care on about serving Him, like the girl and from the church. You know, like doesn't matter
Right.
how much I have on, what I'm doing. It doesn't matter how I do my nails or my hair. It just matters
Right.
that people see Christ through me.
Right.
And there was a story one time that I heard where I don't know. It was a long time ago I heard this story and it just came to me. So I don't know if it was a true story or if somebody was trying to like paint a picture, but basically it was
Drive home
like
a point.
a prostitute. Yeah. It was like basically a prostitute had came into a church and they were like judging her hardcore on the way that she looked.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think she had gone to another church. I could be telling the story completely wrong. She had gone to another church and they offered her clothes. Like they had some
Mm-hmm.
clothes at that church. And so they were like, "Oh, here, go ahead and like put this on." And like they didn't judge her for coming in the way that she came in. They instead like took care of her and like gave
Mm-hmm.
her clothes. They kind of told her like what modesty looks like. This is how we like
Yeah.
present ourselves to church. And in that story, I don't remember anybody ever being like, "Oh, well, now all of our men are just all sinning now because of this girl. They're all lustful. They're all looking at her instead of their wives." Like it was just people taking care of her. I don't remember anything like that. And I think that godly men, like, yes, they're gonna sin. Like, yes, if they see something, they're gonna lust too.
Right.
If that's what they struggle with. But I think that if they're truly following Christ, like they're going to be able to be like, I need to turn away from this. I need to look this way instead. I need to go to God with this instead of being like, oh, well, we need to blame her because she's the one that walked by me like this, you know? So I think that instead of teaching teens, because we were teens when we were learning all this, I think instead of teaching teens to be ashamed of themselves and like really watching out for all of these things, like let's teach them to keep their eyes on God. Let's teach them to have control over themselves. Let's teach them what to do when they feel like that control is being taken, because we can't control external factors. We can't control what the world does, but we can control ourselves. And so I think that the conversation really has to switch from sisters protect your brothers at all cost to let's learn biblically how to handle these situations. And you know, I think that's what I was trying to get at.
And I think like look out for each other, not just sisters protect your brothers, but like brothers also like guard your sisters, like help them out too, because like they're not the only ones, like you said, they're not the only ones that struggle with that, like you're at the pool, like little 10-year-old Danielle really thought she was going to catch a boyfriend at the Asylum Aquatic Center with all these lifeguards, like you know what I mean?
Yeah. We would take like pictures out of magazines and post them all over our walls, like naked
Justin
boys,
Bieber
not
was
naked,
all
they
over
were
my
just like
wall.
shirtless boys were watching us go to sleep, you know, like we laugh about it, it's funny to remember, but like honestly if you look at it, like a lot of women started with lust because these things were so right there in their face. And I think that a lot of, I know that we talk about church hurt a lot here. I'm kind of tired of talking about church hurt, but
No, you're good.
I notice a lot of women who come out of the church, they go really scandalous for a while because they're tired of being told what to do with their bodies and they're tired of being held to unreasonable standards while men get away with everything, you know? Like there are women out there who really struggle with like identity because they've been taught for so long this certain way. And I think a part of it is because of conversations that we've had.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, like, when are we telling women or young women, okay, like, you need to start covering up this, you need to wear this, you need to wear that? You're telling them when they're going through this pivotal moment, this pivotal, like, change in their life, when they're becoming a girl into a young woman, and it really messes with your head. Like, I mean, I struggled with an eating disorder almost my whole like teenage into young adult life. Like it was hard, and a lot of it came from that idea, just like being so self-conscious of my body all the time. Like I was curvy, I've always been curvy, and being told in Sunday school that I need to wear 4 undershirts if I have to, just to keep a little bit of cleavage covered up, like it really messed with my mind. And I'm not saying that's the only reason I struggled in that way, but it didn't help it. It definitely did not help it, you know? So I don't know.
I think that modesty is definitely a conversation that still needs to happen because
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
young Christians, and I don't mean like young in age, just like people coming into the church, like
New
being young
Christians, yeah.
Christians, um, sometimes they weren't raised to know what modesty is or what modesty looks like or how we should present ourselves, you know? So I do think
Mm-hmm.
that there is a place for a conversation of modesty. I just think that the church has done a really bad job going about it. And I
Yeah.
think that it's really crappy, honestly, of the church to put so much weight on women and nothing on men.
Yeah.
And I know like this conversation isn't going to start making churches tell men to wear shirts to go swimming too. Like I know that this conversation
Right.
really isn't going to like do anything, but I really hope that this conversation gets people kind of thinking about it too though, and just like
Mhm.
knowing cuz I don't know, it's almost taboo, I guess, for women to talk about the struggles that they have with lust or even if they are addicted to porn or like
It is, yeah.
hypersexual
It is.
active, I guess. Um, but like it's not hard for men to talk about that stuff because it's become the normal. We know men are
Mhm.
gonna have these kind of thoughts. Like we expect this, I guess,
It's
from men.
expected. It's expected.
And so it's harder
Mhm.
for women to like share their struggles to,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's fair of the church to do that to women. And
Yeah.
I just want to point out too, in the story of David and Bathsheba, you know, nobody was mad at Bathsheba for taking a bath and being naked on her roof.
Mhm.
It was David who received the entire like I mean,
Brunt of God's
Bathsheba like
punishment.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bathsheba lost her kid, but that's because of more choices that David made. But like
Right.
it was David that we talk about. Like David is the
Mhm.
one that chose not to turn away. David's the one that chose to even not go to war. Like, you know, and so I think that there should be a balance. I'm not saying put all of it on men. I'm not saying put all of it on women. We have to have a balance to do what you said, look out for each
Right.
other.
And I think, like, I've heard a lot of justifications. Well, it's everywhere. Everyone, women are just so sexualized in the media now. It's everywhere. You can't. Okay, well, it's not in this. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, and I know that that's like, you can't just sit here and read your Bible 24 hours a day, but like, I just heard so many people just justify sexual immorality in the form of like lust and things like that. Well, it's everywhere. Everybody's sexualized, everything's sexualized. Okay, but like that's not going to be an excuse that God is going to hear out on, like he's not going to like take that excuse. And just because it's everywhere, like, yeah, it is everywhere, but we're called to be set apart from that. And I don't know. I've just heard that excuse a lot. But I think, like, in terms with our kids, and, like, especially our girls, as they grow older, like, I don't want to raise them in that purity culture type. Of course, I'm going to teach them what the scripture says, and Graham too. But, like, I'm not going to make them feel shame for the bodies that God gave them. And of course, I'm going to teach them. I'm going to go back to this right here in First Peter where it talks about your beauty should come from the outward adornment or it should not come from outward adornment such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry and fine clothes. Rather, it should be of that inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is the great worth in God's sight. And I have that painted and it's hanging in the girls' room because I always want them to remember that this doesn't matter. As long as like this is right and you are dressing not for anyone else, but for your comfort and to serve the kingdom in all that you do and to shine Christ in all that you do, that's all that matters. And I will teach our son the same thing. Like, outward looks doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have the chains. It doesn't matter if you have, whatever drip it is that there is popular with them. Like, that stuff doesn't matter. Like, the only thing that matters is, like, you're shining Christ's light, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. If you ever like want to see an example of like how women react to men, definitely look at the K-pop scene because
Mm-hmm.
in videos that I've watched of like the K-pop people, if it's a video that's posted by somebody in South Korea, they always cover up, like they'll put a sticker or something over shirtless guys, like their abs. But then if it's outside of Korea, like the US or something, and they're posting videos, they'll show it all. They'll zoom in, they'll slow it down, they'll replay it like 5 times. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, if you want a real life example, look at how
Yeah.
these girls will cut videos of these men just so that they can see them. And like the K-pop world, these girls be delusional sometimes. And so like if you ever want a real life example of what
Right.
I'm saying when I say girls struggle with lust just as much, go watch
Oh,
these
for sure.
videos.
I mean, I was delusional and so in love with Justin Timberlake. Little Danielle carrying around her Mrs. Timberlake bag. He was
Yeah,
on my
Usher was
wall.
my
Like,
first
we
love
for
in
sure.
music
Who was it?
videos. Usher.
Yeah, Usher was up there.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I mean, we laugh at it because it's so normal for girls to have like crushes, I guess,
Crushes, yeah.
on guys. But like, if you really think it goes deep,
It does. It
it
does
really
go
does.
deep. I mean, not every, and I think maybe this is like where the difference is. Chris and I have talked about this because I can see a good looking guy and just be like, oh, he's nice looking. And my thoughts stop there. Like, I'm not going to go into these lustful desire, like, daydreams. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, every now and again, maybe, and I have to, like, bounce my thoughts, but, like, it's not often for me. Like, but that's not an area I struggle with in that area. But for, he's explaining that, like, most of the time, guys, if they see a woman they're attractive to, that line of thinking is like a train. Like, it's hard to stop it. And so maybe that's a little bit of the difference. But then again, I'm not all women, so I can't speak for all women. I don't know how their train of thoughts compare. I don't know. But like just in Chris and I's line of thinking, because that is an area where he has struggled, is with lust and addiction to, different things. And he can't watch any of it. Like, and that's what I was going back to earlier when I said if I can't comfortably lay in bed or on the couch and watch a show with my husband, and him feel comfortable, then I don't need to be watching it either, and it doesn't need to be in our house. And that's kind of where I was going with that earlier, but like his line of thinking and my line of thinking is two totally different things. I can say someone's good looking and it stops, but he can't. And it might be vice versa in other cases where it's the woman that struggles and the man that doesn't, but I don't know, but that's just like
I
my own
wonder
personal.
which it's probably not you who could answer this, but maybe, but bring Chris in real quick. No,
Hey.
like when he gets into those times now after like struggling with it for a while, like has he learned tactics to kind of like figure out how to stop that train sooner, like turn his attention
Mhm.
away? Like he has learned
Yeah,
those kind of
yeah,
things.
he
So
definitely
that
he knows his triggers. And I mean, he is completely open about this. Like he's talked about it. He would not mind me sharing this at all. But like he knows that like it doesn't even have to be like a visual thing. Like he knows when Satan is attacking him in that area, and it might be him and I have had a really rough couple of days and we've butted heads and it starts with like a little thought, or it might be something that comes on TV and I have like seen him turn away from a Victoria's Secret commercial. Like he can't even like give it an inch, like he's definitely like learned different tactics and his triggers, I think, like what is going to trigger him to be more tempted in this situation or this situation, and he tries his very best to like put up those, guards. And like me as his wife, I also try to put up those guards. There's certain, like, I love the Housewives, we've talked about it, my reality TV shows, but there's certain franchises that are pretty raunchy. I don't watch them because I'm not going to have that in my house around my husband. I don't know.
Yeah, that partnership. But see, that's all I'm asking for. Like, let's
Yeah.
teach instead of teaching that women have to bear all of it. Let's teach strategies for guys
Yes.
who are struggling. And I know that that's not always going to help and be the case. Like, I'm not against us doing our part
Right.
too. Right. I just want the conversation to be more balanced, I think is all of that.
It needs to
I
be
don't
more
want to
balanced. I
I don't want
agree.
to have
It needs to be more balanced. I
yeah,
agree.
I don't want kids to like come to me and tell me like, "Oh, I saw this guy out on the pool deck this time," and
Mm-hmm.
like we joke about it as girls, we're like, "Oh,
Right.
you saw a cute guy, did you go talk to him?" I don't
Yeah.
know. I think that we should change our focus on how we handle these situations, and it shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
so funny for girls.
Right. No, I completely agree. I think even like at a young age, like I find myself like teasing my oldest daughter who's in school now, like, oh, you think he's cute? And then I'm just like, how weird of me. She's 5, like, but that's just how it's always
Right.
been. And I'm like, why am I introducing this earlier than it needs to be introduced? And so I really tried to like pull back, because I can see it embarrasses her sometimes. And so I just, but I don't know, that's just always the way it's been. And like, I like your train of thinking, like, it needs to be more balanced and we need to be more aware of how we are over sexualizing kids by trying to protect them too. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the church just needs to do better. I
Yeah.
think that just because tradition has done it this way for so long and that it's been okay for so
Mhm.
long doesn't make it okay.
Right. Free Will Baptists even used to be so extreme. Now everyone just has to wear t-shirts and shorts. But I found out on one of my mission trips that a lot of the old school, die hard, stick to doctrine people don't do mixed swimming. So if, for example, a previous pastor that we had grew up in that type of, setting, and there was, sisters involved, they wouldn't get to swim on a private beach. They would have to go somewhere just their family, because they didn't believe in, like, they called it mixed bathing, but like mixed swimming, like girls and guys together, because of the lust situation. And I see that as like an extreme. So I don't know, but I forgot about that until just now, actually, that is like that was a thing. Mm.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting topic. And I mean, I don't have any more notes on it, so our
Yeah, I don't
episode
either.
might be short, but like I'm glad that it's still something that we touched on.
Yeah,
Um just as a conversation starter.
yeah, just thought provoking, like, why are we teaching these? What are we teaching these? And if you have kids, like, what are you teaching them? Like, how are you treating your son versus how you're treating your daughter in this aspect of like purity and modesty, and just like, I think it all goes back to like controlling your thoughts. Like, I think if we teach young, like my son is 8, like if we start at his age and younger on training your thoughts and focusing on godly things, and if we really hammer that spiritual discipline in, and we help get that, which that's never going to be something that's fully able to like have a reign on. It's something that I feel like even as mature Christ followers, we're having to like check our thoughts and watch where our thoughts are going. But I think if we work on that spiritual discipline with children that are younger, instead of, well, you have to dress this way to prevent this train of thought, or you can't do this to prevent this, how about we just teach across the board Christ followers at a young age how to capture those thoughts and turn them back to God? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, because even scripture says if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. Or if your hand
Right.
causes you to sin, cut it off. And I mean, I'm not saying let's not teach kids to mutilate themselves, but like take accountability, like this is your problem, is basically what
Yes.
that scripture is saying. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
say if a girl walks by and causes you to sin, go cut her eye out. Like it's on
Yeah.
you. It's your
Yeah.
responsibility to take care of it. So like
Yeah.
I think you're right. Let's teach them from a young age.
Training
let's
thoughts.
control and take captive our thoughts
Yeah.
and take
That's one thing we're
responsibility.
working with our son is doing that. And it's not even about things of that nature, but it's just like, are you going to do what you want to do? Or are you going to do what your mom and dad say to do? Or what God says to do? You know what I mean? Like the right thing. Are you going to listen to you or are you going to listen to God? Are you going to control yourself? Like we're really working on like self-discipline right now. And I think that that is hand in hand with like the controlling your thoughts and training your thoughts is self-discipline and denying yourself. You know, the Bible says you have to die to yourself daily. And I think it's like you have to die to yourself like every 30 minutes, honestly, because it's like it's just right there sometimes. It's not daily, it's constant.
For sure is. I feel that on a deep level.
Right. But that's all I have for this, but
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, not
mm,
too much shorter, but I hope that you guys really understand that we're not saying that we don't agree with modesty. We
yeah.
definitely do agree with modesty and presenting yourself well. That there is a little bit of us that needs to be aware of how we're presenting ourselves. Like, we're not against that. We just want things balanced. We want the conversations to be different, to include the struggles that girls have as well and what they're
Right.
struggling with.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Right. Thanks for joining us.
yeah, we will see you guys again next week.
Thanks.
Bye.